All right, Mark, would you be so kind? Please give me any geometrical symbol and be creative.
Octagon.
Not quite that creative. Make it a symbol. A triangle, all right. This gentleman sitting here, would you please, your name?
Enrique.
Enrique? Enrique, would you please imagine for a moment that you have a bow and arrow in your hand, and at the target, at the far end of the range, pasted on the target, is an 8x10 photograph of any celebrity in the world. Which celebrity do you have pasted on that archery target?
Okay, I got it.
Yes, you can tell us.
Houdini.
Houdini. Good choice. And finally, this gentleman sitting here, sir. Houdini always stayed in nice hotels. If he were alive today, he'd be staying probably in one of the Hilton hotels in one of the major cities of the world. Would you tell us first your name?
Gary.
Gary. And then, Gary, please, which major city in the world will this Hilton hotel be in?
In Tokyo.
In Tokyo. Now, in the Tokyo Hilton, by the way, whenever you travel, it's always a good idea never to stay above the 7th floor. That's how high the ladders on the fire trucks reach. All right? But Gary, if you're staying on the 7th floor as Harry Houdini, which of the rooms on the 2nd floor will you choose to stay in? They all have 3 digits, so you're looking at a number between 700 and 799.
Be 713.
Amazing. You see, before the program, I made some notations on some business cards. And in those notations, I made a notation that one person would name a simple geometric figure. One of them would name any celebrity in the world. And the third would name any major city in the world and the hotel room in that city. And Mark named a triangle. And Enrique named Harry Houdini. And Gary named the Tokyo Hilton. And room 713. Here, we need some verification. Will you take that one, please? And will you take that one, please? And here, you take that one, please. And then, if you will, confirm those predictions are not ambiguously written. They are very, very precise. Remember, we had Mark, we had Enrique, and we had Gary. And is that prediction perfectly correct?
Perfect.
All right, and here is your prediction correct?
Perfectly correct.
And even though I may have misspelled the name, is your prediction correct in every detail? Yes, it is. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Mentalism is all about 4 principles and 4 principles only, and they all begin with F. You either force it, fake it, find it out, or fill it in. There is no 5th. I know what you're thinking, but it's not the case. May I have the predictions back just for a moment? This is a marvelous principle that you can all use. It's far easier than it appears. First, it's necessary that you have in your pocket this prediction, all 3 of them written. You must learn one person's name before the show, and I did that very surreptitiously and filled it in on one of the cards. You'll see why. But essentially, all of these cards, which you assume to be 3 different predictions, are actually the exact same prediction. That is, this one says, tonight, Mark will guess at my target, which is a triangle. The next one says, helper number 1 will take 2 tries to correctly perceive the triangle. And the first attempt at thought transfer is a triangle. So in effect, you see, while it's set up as if there are 3 predictions and there are 3 people giving responses, and each of them has been predicted, in fact, only one of them. Now, you may ask, how did I know it was going to be a triangle? Well, I also have in here an envelope which has cards for stars, and I have one in here which is good for squares, and I have one in here which is good for diamond shapes, and one which is good for circles. All right? So, in effect, I have absolutely no idea which of those symbols he's going to choose. It is important, however, that I get him to name a complicated one first and then simplify later, okay? But I have 5 basic symbols, and they are arranged in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 order. That is, a star has 5 points, so it's number 5. A square has 4 sides, it's number 4. A triangle has 3 points and 3 sides. It's card number 3. We'll skip this one for a second. Card number 1 is a circle made with a single line. The only one that's a little out of shape, and if you're following with me so far, you may be tempted to use the standard ESP symbols. Well, the ESP symbol for 2 is a plus. And a plus is not a geometric symbol, it's a mathematic symbol. So people never name it. So instead, I decided to put in a diamond or a diamond shape. There's a real good reason for that. Suppose somebody gets a little frisky and says, parallelogram, rhomboid, trapezoid. Well, actually, all 3 of those could be described as diamond shapes. So that's why I put diamond shape as the second set in there. So therefore, the cards go into my pocket. Okay, the envelopes are in my pocket. I asked the first person whose name I already have, and by the way, I knew his name was Mark, M-A-R-K. On the card, I misspelled it M-A-R-C, and that's important also. Nonetheless, my hand goes into my pocket as I ask him for any geometric symbol. Be creative. He was creative. He said octagon. I said a little less creative, please. Now, what I'm doing in my pocket is this. Look. My 2 fingers are going around the very center card, and the other fingers on either side. All of this is in my pocket. Therefore, there is no fumbling when it's time to bring out one card. If he says circle, it's this card that comes out, or this envelope. If he says anything related to a diamond shape, it's this one that comes out. He said triangle, so this one came out. If he said square, this one comes out. If he said anything like a star, this one comes out. Okay? There's no fumbling at all. So therefore, they're down here. He names octagon. Well, maybe something a little simpler. He says triangle. Thank you very much. Now I'm pointing with the envelope to the next person, so that the memory of this will be that this was in view all the time. Okay? So I'm pointing to the second person, Enrique, and then finally to Gary. There is another point that's really important. All of these envelopes, just underneath the flap, are marked with the contents. This is a little triangle, this is a little circle, and so on. So if I inadvertently have a brain cramp, and I pull out the wrong envelope, and I'm gesturing with it, I can say, time to put that one back in my pocket and take another one. All right, it doesn't really matter, because as I'm speaking, I can just put it away, talk, gesture, reach back, and then take out the proper one. Okay? Now, the reason that you ask for the person's name is in that one card which says, tonight, Mark, underlined and misspelled, will guess at my target, which is a triangle. Both things were underlined. When I confirm with the person who's holding the card with the name on it, I say, even though I misspelled the name, is everything else correct? They think I'm talking about the name Houdini. Okay? So it's one of those assumptions that we lead the audience to make. So that's really all there is to it. You have 5 sets of cards made up. Oh, one other thing. Notice that the key word, triangle, the prediction word, is the very last word or very close to the last on every card. That's in case you give the card to someone, ask them to read it, and he says, okay, the first attempt at thought trans... Oh, no. Shh. To yourself, please. Okay? You don't want him reading out triangle, because the other 2 people then will realize we got a scam going. All right? That's also the reason, by the way, you point to people near the back whenever you can. That does 2 things. First of all, whenever you're doing a show, for example, at a banquet, there are always some people near the back who would much rather talk office politics or tell jokes or just not join in on the show. And it's a terrible disruption. When you point to the people in the back, you're essentially putting them on notice. I see you, I know you're there, and you're going to enjoy the show. Okay? In other words, you're saying, sit down and shut up. The second thing you're doing is it wouldn't make sense to pick out everybody in the front row because you could just hand them back their cards. You can't do that because 2 of them would say, wait, that's not mine. So instead, by picking out people away from the front row, it makes a whole lot more sense to give the cards to the people in the front to confirm that everything was correct. Does that make sense? Now, by the way, everything that's in the presentation tonight was a contribution from, or was originally published in SYZYGY, and this particular piece was contributed by a fellow. His name is Ted Karmilovich. He's a full-time entertainer. He's been entertaining audiences with ESP and psychology and mnemonics for years. He does corporations, nightclubs, television. He called this The Bold and Beautiful Prophecy, and I hope you agree. Thank you.